Okay. All right. Here we go. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. For those of you that are watching the stream archive or the VOD here on Twitch, sorry you couldn't make it, but it's great to have you here in the VOD at least. Anyway, it is amazing to be back. We are back yet again, and I am loving it. So here we are. Thanks for the follow, Maria, and welcome back to the stream. It's great to see you. Of course, I remember you. I remember all of you guys. Oh. So, how was everybody's day? Also, yeah, I figured out. I totally messed up, guys. Last night, I messed up the audio, big time. Unfortunately, I had the audio coming through my headphone. What a stupid mistake. I've never made that mistake. So the audio last night and in the VOD, I mean, you could tell the difference. It's literally night and day. Was terrible. But thankfully, it's all solved. It's all solved now, today. So we're fine. We're fine now. Yeah, and what's funny, Maria, is I actually do recognize your nickname. Like your username that you use and your nickname and stuff, I actually do remember it, funny enough. So, yeah. I'm going to move this down here for now, guys. And that's full screen. Okay, we are getting rocking and rolling now, man. Your mother surprised you with one of your favorite foods tonight? No way. That's amazing. That's amazing. I love to hear it. Um, and what was that? What would that be? Yes, you are pretty special. Pretty special, Maria. It looks like, based on the badge next to your name, Maria, that you are, well, you have Amazon Prime. So that's good. I love all my Amazon Prime people because you guys actually get to subscribe right here on Twitch for free, which is amazing. A lot of different members of the community do that, so I love that. But Parmesan chicken, that's awesome. That's awesome. It's always nice to have your favorite meal every once in a while, you know? Can't have it too much, but you can't have it too little. If you have it too much, you're going to get bored and it won't be your favorite anymore. Because you can only have so much of something, you know what I mean? But anyway, tonight has been crazy outside. The weather is what I was referring to. The weather has been crazy, guys. Absolutely insane. Um, like there's a rainstorm going on right now out there, but it's also extremely windy. It is a crazy night out there, and all I can do is hope that we don't lose power, because that would make me extremely upset. I'm sure we won't. I mean, but the wind is that bad that actually it actually has me like a little um, worried, a little bit at least. But we'll see how it goes. Haha, that is very sweet that you asked for, she asked you and you asked, and boom, she delivered. That's awesome. Exactly, Maria. Her mom is the best. I would have to agree with that. Um, and her mom is not technically a part of the community. She's not, she doesn't come into the streams, but she always tells Rivers to say hello to me and us. She knows about the community and stuff, so it's pretty cool. She's indirectly a part of it. Indirectly. I don't know if any of you guys are having an ad right now. For those of you that aren't subscribed, you might be having an ad. Some of you might not be. If not, it's coming soon. Um, but much love to all my subscribers on here. Seriously, it means a lot to me. And you don't have to deal with the stupid ads. And you know what? Like, that is so important. That's so important for you, for your parent to be like a hero of yours. I think that's amazing, because not everybody at all feels that way, or gets to feel that way. So it's just amazing. And hello to her as well. Hello to her as well. It has been. It's been a while, Maria. It's been a while, unfortunately. And I wish that it hasn't been, but it has. It has. But that's just what we're dealing with. You know, it, I know that you've been really busy with work. Um, Paramedic, so you've got a lot going on. I get it. I get it. And also, I've been on stream break for a little while, like a month, to catch up on a bunch of things, a bunch of work. So it is what it is. I haven't. Yesterday was my first day back in a while, so it happens. Like I said, I know that you've been busy. You've been busy with work, and that's kind of the thing. Good. That's amazing. You've been training people? Yeah, I can imagine you've been needing to train people because, well, quite literally, you lost multiple people at work. You have honestly lost multiple people at work. I remember you telling me that. Exactly, Maria. You came back at the same time as me. This is very true. Very, very true. Hey, welcome back, Amira. Great to see you. How do I have such a great memory? Well, I train my brain quite a bit. I'm always learning. Um, so that's sort of like reps, a workout for your brain, quite literally. So there's that. And then there's also just the fact that, well, I also have a good diet and I fuel my brain really properly. I try to exercise. There's just so many different things that I'm always trying to do. The healthier you are, the more your brain can can work and retain memories and things like this. And then exercising your brain as well is important, because if you don't use it, you lose it. It's kind of like a muscle in that way. And yeah, interestingly, the brain uses 20% of your energy expenditure. Like, it is such a power hungry organ. You know, that's an insane amount of energy just to fuel your brain. So you have to make sure that it is fueled. Great question, though, Amira. Always love the questions, guys. Um, hey, that's awesome. Hosting an event. That's not the carnival, is it? Because I think the carnival's this coming summer, so you're not doing the carnival thing now. You are doing something else. Yeah, and the fact that I literally remembered, Maria, that you were a paramedic just off the top of my head. But yes, you are studying to become a nurse, and I know that not just that's exactly it, right? It's not just work that's got you busy; it's also studying. Um, so yeah. Um, Amira, can you give me a little bit more context on that question? Meaning, um, I guess I mean, like, are you asking what my favorite hair color is, like, on a girl? Or are you asking what my favorite hair color is on myself or something? Um, that's what I need to know so that I can properly answer it. But another great question. I'm looking forward to answering it for sure. Uh, in general, I don't have one in general. I actually do not. I do have a favorite hair color Well, I have like a couple of favorite hair colors on girls, like my preference in terms of attraction, um, but not so much just a general favorite that I don't know. In general is kind of a different, feels like a different context to me. If I'm going with in general, I guess I would just say my hair color. I like my hair color in general. Like I think it's a decent hair color. It's not too dark brown, it's not too light brown. It's a decent color and everything. But yeah. Thank you, Othello, and welcome back. Welcome back. For those of you that missed my quick couple of minute thing that I talked about the audio toward the beginning of the stream, I was saying that I completely spaced out and didn't get the audio properly set up to my microphone. So we literally had terrible audio all night last night. You can hear it in the VOD. And then if you go and listen to any of my other full stream archive videos, you can hear just the night and day difference of how bad the audio was. It was actually going through my freaking little tiny microphone on my AirPod. But I fixed it. Obviously. Now we're rocking and rolling. So, no, that's okay that you've been quiet, Othello. I just didn't know you were here until you initially made yourself known, but that's great. It's totally okay to be quiet sometimes. But it is always nice for me to know that you guys are here, of course. Maria's happy to see Othello. Look at that. Oh, well, that's great, Maria. Have fun making some mate. And I'm glad you'll be listening in the meantime. Rivers says, so this event is helping high school seniors find their perfect prom outfits. That's very cool. That's very cool. Exciting. That'll be fun for you. You're such a volunteerer, Rivers. You're such a volunteerer. And that's a really cool thing. And Amira asks, there we go. What hair colors you like on girls? My favorite two. My favorite two in general would be brunette and black. I think those are my two favorites that I gravitate toward and prefer, I suppose. Brunette and black. Good question. So, we've been talking a lot about books last night and today in the Discord during the day. So, let us change the subject now and talk about some books. I can see that the mic is picking up the wind. Like when the wind really picks up, like just a second ago, you guys can hear it. It's pretty crazy out there. It's always your time to shine, Othello. Always. And I love that, Amira. I love that. I love black hair. And here's what I'll say above all. Actually, I didn't even think to answer to say this. I don't know why, because this is like the number one Jackson being attracted to someone's hair color maxim. And that is, honestly, whatever your natural hair color is, I don't know. I don't really get it. Again, I just, like, I don't understand it. Why? I think this. Like, yes, it's usually brown or black, but then there is an added layer of preference and attraction to a girl that leaves her hair color natural, or yeah. And so if you naturally have black hair and you just leave it like that and it's black, well, I also really like black hair. If you naturally have brown hair and you leave it like that, well, I like brown hair, but also it's your natural hair color. I don't know. Something about I really like, and you guys have heard me say this before. I've said it many times, that I really, really like natural beauty in general. So natural hair color plays into that very, very deeply. Although, if you had a different color hair than brown or black, that's not a deal breaker. You know what I mean? Like, I don't mind any hair color. Hair color is not a huge deal to me. These are just subtle preferences. Subtle preferences. So, anyways, books. I can bust out some of the books that some of the physical books that I have. Othello and the Community can help me determine which ones are in the public domain, so I can even do them on stream. And then we can figure out if the translation is in the public domain, depending on the edition of the book. Because, and also, it's not just if it's a book that's translated from, like, the Odyssey, like ancient Greek to English, let's say. It could also just be a very old English book that was written in English, but they've modernized the text, which is considered not a translation, but kind of a translation, but it is a new work, so to speak. So we have to be pretty diligent with what we choose and how we choose it. If I have to read off of something online, then we can do that too, but it would be nice to have the physical book, and we can slap a bookmark in it and pick up, each stream that we do it. And welcome back, Maria. And there we go. Catherine, natural brown hair, but just has the streaks. And that's great. I think it looks good. Do you want to start with anything you already own? Yes, that's what I was kind of just saying, was like, I'd like to do a physical book if possible, but we're going to have to kind of roll through the options and make sure that we can even do them. Yes, Maria, any translation, any like actual translation from a totally different language to a totally different language, not everything translates perfectly. So we do certainly have discrepancies there when that occurs. But the translators try their best. They try their best. So we'll go through them. Othello's ready to go. I need to see which will even be remotely old enough. So the camera will probably focus in a second. So I think we've determined already that The Lord of the Rings is not public domain, right? That is established, right? Lord of the Rings is not in the public domain. Okay, Othello says that's correct. Good. Well, a lot of my books on the shelf are not going to be fun for you guys to listen to. So we're already condensing this selection down insanely. Because most of these books are like philosophy and nonfiction. You know, some of them are really old philosophy, yes, but nobody wants to listen to that. So let me see here. These are nonfiction. I'll bring these over in a second, but these are nonfiction. Let's see if this one is a thing. Okay, we'll just go with these for now. Yeah, for real, the book fund donation. The book fund and the book donation. But they have to be books in the public domain. They do. I bet, Maria. I bet it was quite different. Well, that's okay if you wrote inside of your books. I mean, as long as I can still read the text, it's not a huge deal. Not a huge deal. So, let me see what I can see in just the top book. Crime and Punishment. Well, look at that. Now, Crime and Punishment would definitely, pretty sure, be in the public domain. But of course, it's frickin' translated with an introduction and notes by, because it's translated from Russian. Uh, this translation first published by Viking, 1991. So, no. The Odyssey. Let's see what version of the Odyssey I have. Welcome back, Nancy. What version of the Odyssey do I have? Another one of my beautiful cloth bounds. This one says E.V. Ryu's translation first published in 1946. You're very welcome, Nancy. 1940. What? Can somebody give me the year of public domain? Because that's going to help me, number one. So I don't have to keep asking, is this year in the public domain? What year constitutes? So 1917 is in the public domain, but what would be really helpful is to know what year constitutes the public domain. What is the cutoff? $1930, Nancy. Let's go. 1929. Roughly in there. Okay, so the Odyssey is not going to work. That is 1946. But these are also not originally English books. So this is kind of a little bit of a different story than the other ones. Yeah. But yeah, the Macduff translation is 1991, so in Crime and Punishment anyway. So those are going down. I don't have any Charles Dickens on the shelf or in my lap currently. Let's see. I'm looking at Ralph Waldo Emerson now. I think Ralph Waldo Emerson would fall into public domain. I mean, these are like the 1800s. Yeah. Yeah. This is all 1838, 1834. So Ralph Waldo Emerson's an interesting, but it kind of borders on philosophy though. It's not so much of a story, so we're not gonna like that. I don't know if you told me that, Maria. Or told us that. I don't know if you did. This is another Ralph Waldo Emerson. I don't know what introduction copyright is. What is introduction copyright? Either way, all of these say that they're 1800s. All essays in this book are reprinted in their entirety from the standard edition prepared by Emerson's son, which is 1903. So I'm going to say that nature and selected essays would work. We could make that happen. I have here Plato and Aristophanes, 4 texts on Socrates, 1984, nope. This one guaranteed is... ...2006. We'll probably have to read online. Which is fine. I mean, it is what it is. I won't have to be looking down as I'm reading. Should be at least good. And Antigone, Sophocles. But Antigone doesn't actually have. Translated with introductions and notes by Paul Woodruff. Yeah, I think 2001. Okay, so all we've got in terms of books that are not just straight up like really, really analytical philosophy and also just straight up nonfiction, like science books. All of the books behind me are science, philosophy, and things that are not very story driven. So the books below me are less so, but the only ones that are like keepers are Ralph Waldo, and Ralph Waldo is good, but it's more he's more of a thinker, and he is doing more philosophical work. So online is easy to find. I mean, all you have to do is just search up the public domain version of whatever we're trying to read. So who wants to start suggesting books, okay? That's what we need to do here. There is an ad running for quite a few of you peeps. That's great. Rivers, good. You're still here. I'm gonna wait till the ad finishes running, just in case a decent amount of you are in ad land. But we've got to start suggesting literature. So we should be back from the ads. Let me know, guys, what literature we are wanting to get into. Amira, I like Kafka, but I would suggest, for the stream's sake, I would suggest probably more leaning toward more classic fiction. That way, for those of us that, for those of the people that are listening, who want more of a gripping sort of story narrative, they can get that through the book. That way it's not so much nonfiction. That's why I had to leave more than half, like 75% of the books on my shelf out of it running in the first place. But yeah, that's also, Amira, why I didn't want to read Emerson, for that very reason, because I just don't think it's a good move for everyone as a whole. I usually just read books in English, Maria. The Brothers Grimm, I don't know how short they are, but I do believe they're short stories to a degree. To a degree. So, yes, Maria, I explained all this in the stream earlier today when I tagged all of you. Basically, most people in the stream want me to read for a segment of the stream. So we are considering it and trying to figure out what we're going to read. So The Brothers Grimm is definitely a good suggestion. Frankenstein is definitely a good suggestion. Great Gatsby is definitely a good suggestion. Yeah, and like Gatsby's one that I haven't read in a long time. I don't think I've actually ever read The Brothers Grimm. Like I know of the stories, you know what I mean, but I haven't read it. Tale of Two Cities, that's a great suggestion. Great one. Okay, you're done. Those are the top suggestions. That's what I'm hearing. For the stream, Portrait of Dorian Gray. That one's definitely doable and possible. And we absolutely could do a book that requires translation. Like, I guarantee you there's old translations of Crime and Punishment and The Odyssey, things like that. Now, I've kind of read The Odyssey just a few months ago, so it'd be great for me as well to read one that I also haven't heard or read in a while. So let me see how many slots it lets me take in the poll section. We only have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We only have 5 slots, folks. Dracula is a good suggestion. Okay, so now we're getting consensus. We're getting consensus because at first, guys, everybody's suggesting something different. But now we've had a consensus between Othello and Maria that Dracula could be good. Does anyone else have consensus? Or what should we really realistically put in the list? Because I've got 5. Since we've got consensus, I will add Dracula to the list now. Dracula's going to be on the list. Yeah, Interview with the Vampire is not public domain. As much as we wish it was. And we certainly do. Phantom of the Opera, Robin Hood. These are good. Those are good suggestions. Definitely. Othello had mentioned Nathaniel Hawthorne. We could do the Scarlet Letter as well. The Scarlet Letter is totally doable, possible, and would be a good one. Hi. Come on up. Hi. Pride and Prejudice is a good option, although that's another one that I read within the past few months. So, if I hadn't, I would definitely be down. Well, let me see. Let me see real quick. Let me see. Maybe I'm mixing it up with a different book. Let me check my finished section here. Yeah. Yep, I read Pride and Prejudice in October. So that one, like, I would do it, but I'd prefer that we do one that I haven't recently read myself, you know what I mean? Sense and Sensibilities, that one we could do. Same sort of deal. Same sort of deal as Pride and Prejudice. Ivy's laying in my lap. You can't see her, but she's laying in my lap right now. So right now I'm kind of back from the camera and I'm not filling up the whole frame. I do apologize. It's just because I can't scoot forward anymore because she's in my lap. I'm sure temporarily though. Dumas, yes. Okay, Frankenstein can go in the list. I mean, we've got Dracula already, right? Oh, I'm glad you can hear her. I wasn't sure. I didn't see the fader readout moving on my screen. Okay, so Frankenstein, Dracula. Nancy, would you second Sense and Sensibilities? because Sense and Sensibilities could be doable instead of Pride and Prejudice. Okay, I'll put that one there. And then Crime and Punishment. I did suggest that one a few minutes ago, so I would love to read that one because I haven't read that one recently. All of the books I put on the list, which are 4 so far, I have not read recently. So, what do we got, folks? What do we got? We got one left. One book left. The Quixote. Hamlet. Are you purring, Ivy? Are you purring away for everybody's? Sherlock Holmes. That's a good mystery. Nancy Drew. Oh. Well, the first 4 books. Okay. I really like the Raymond Chandler mysteries. Those are good. What? The Sherlock Holmes? Is Nancy was your reaction to Sherlock Holmes? And Maria was your reaction to Sherlock Holmes or Nancy Drew? Okay, so I'll put Sherlock Holmes in the list then. Because unless I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure that Sherlock Holmes would be in the public domain here. Clap, 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 says Othello. Let's go. So then after that, we're going to have to find a version of whatever book we choose that is actually contains a translation or an edition that is in the public domain. So I am going to give us we'll go 3-minute duration. 3-minute duration on this poll. And you guys are going to be able to vote for which book you want us to read on stream. Again, as I mentioned earlier, the situation with it will be... Oh, the Count of Monte Cristo. Are we happy with the list as it is? Dracula, Frankenstein, Sense and Sensibilities, Crime and Punishment, Sherlock Holmes? Or would we replace one of those books with the Count of Monte Cristo? Because again, I was just about to explain this. We're not going to be reading a whole book in one stream. We are going to be, reading 1 or 2 chapters at a time per stream so that we still have plenty of time to just talk like this or do our YouTube or do our games or whatever, other sort of things that we do during the stream. The book reading will be a segment of the stream, and that will be that. So don't worry if the book is long. Portrait of Dorian, Crime and Punishment. This is Crime and Punishment. That's a big book. It's a pretty big book. It's not the biggest book ever, but it's quite the big book. So, whatever we pick is going to be decently long, and that's okay because we're not devouring an entire book in a stream. The Odyssey and the Iliad, yes, but I read those so recently, Maria. That's the only thing. I prefer something else. So before I send out the list of votes, I mean, nobody said anything about the Count of Monte Cristo, so I'm just gonna. I guess I'll just send it out the way that it is, right? No one's saying anything, so I'm just going to like. I'm gonna pause for like 30 seconds right now. Everyone that is listening to me, let me know if we want the Count of Monte Cristo on the list or no. I don't know what you're saying relax about. Jane Eyre, yeah. It's a good one. Although I read that one recently too. Yeah, Moby Dick. That one's definitely a classic for sure. How about that? How about that? That's what I'll do, guys, because we already have. I mean, we have two very similar books, Dracula and Frankenstein. I believe that Othello seconded Dracula, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, okay. So she did. She's answering for me. Good. There she is, out of the ether. So I'm going to remove Frankenstein since Othello did suggest Frankenstein, but we already have Dracula and Othello liked Dracula, so we'll go with that. And I will replace it with the Count. I wrote the cunt. The cunt of Monte Cristo. It would be a lot better if the book was titled The Cunt of Monte Cristo, actually. I would prefer that. Okay, you'll survive without Frankenstein. Good. Good, good, good. Alright. We're going to have 3 minutes on the poll. You guys vote for your choices here. The poll is live. Everybody can do their thing. I'll even use my vote. I'll even use a vote for myself and vote for which one I want to read. I'll wait. I'll wait till the end to break the tie, though. Actually, no, I won't. I'll just do it now. Alright. I know a lot of you guys are just kind of watching and along for the ride, and a lot of you guys don't necessarily care, like, what book we do. You just like to listen to the stories and such, and hear me speak to you and things like that, but... Oh... Damn it. I don't know if that's gonna work. The power just flickered off and back on, comma. I am sending this message from my mobile data, my phone on cellular data, comma, hoping that the internet comes back in a moment so that we can resume, exclamation point. Mm-hmm. That's not good. Okay, I think it is back now, isn't it? Oh, is it? Okay, we are back. I think. Okay, we are back. Okay. Okay. Right in the frickin' middle of my. Right in the middle of the poll, man. Perfect timing. But yeah, I mean, before the stream blacked out, I would say that Dracula got more votes than any of the other ones. So, thankfully, the power came back so fast. Again, guys, there is a giant wind and rainstorm, like gale force winds occurring outside right now. So, I was prepared for this to possibly happen, but thankfully, it came back pretty quick. But anyway, before that happened, I saw more votes for Dracula, so we can rock some Dracula action. I think that would be. Now, guys, we just have to find. We just have to find an addition, a version that is going to allow us to read it legally. So, does anybody have a handle on? Can somebody do some kind of in-depth in-depth search to locate editions that I can get online that you could share a link with me and I can pop up right on my computer browser and we can read that is in the public domain. Again, the translation, the edition, everything about this book that I'm reading, Dracula, has to be in the public domain. So we have to make sure of that. But other than that, we're golden. We have our decision, which is great. I mean, I guess I can look as well. It's not like I'm. It's not like I can't look. Ivy's on my guitar case. I also like the smell of books, Maria. Okay. It's so strange that Stream Elements just said that I am now live. Just now. Is that because we've been having you guys can't hear me? You guys couldn't hear me until just now? Was I gone? Oh, I think I was. Maybe we are actually having technical difficulties here. Okay, good. You're here. Everybody just stopped responding for a minute. Okay, good. Well, I will look as well for a version of Dracula that's in the public domain that we can just read. I am glad you're looking for it, Othello. Perfection. I will also double your efforts here and look for it also. Maybe. Wait a second here. Maybe I could actually use my the same platform that I do all my ebooks on, and I could just find it on my ebooks. I mean, I can almost guarantee because there's a lot of classic versions. Actually, yeah, like the Great Gatsby. The Great Gatsby, I already have classic version, and it's free because it's archive.org. Scanned version of the original. That is great. Okay. Let me just real quick look at this as well. Ooh, it is an original, folks. Yeah, I mean, hold on. I'll show you. I'll show you guys. The heck is that? Okay. Now, the only reason I'm even suggesting this is because I love getting my classic books right on the same application that I use for my other books, and I think that this is doable, but I'll show you. So I found it right in the classic version of the book, like literally the classic version of the book. And when you go in and look at it, not this one. When you look at it, it actually says May 1987. Here's the released May 26th, 1987, 648 pages. Publisher, public domain, folks. We've got it. We've got it. Even better than the scanned. Exactly, Othello. This is what I'm talking about. And I really appreciate you getting me the scanned version also. But I had a thought, because this is the same way that I read Pride and Prejudice. Was I just went on my normal ebook application, Apple Books. That's what I always use. And boom, here it is. Just like Pride and Prejudice, which you can see is right there. There's the book I read. There's a bunch of public domain. So next time I could actually just slide right through my Apple Books Classics, and that'd be an even easier way for us to find things. So let's get it. And there we go. We got it. We got it, folks. Now, would you guys, do you guys want the book up on the screen like this, or like so you could read with me, or do you want to just see me in the full frame? Welcome back, Maria. Or do you want to see me in the full frame, more like this, where I'm just reading the book and you're watching me, and more just listening to me? Otherwise, I can actually pop it up, have it on the screen. I don't know. Whatever we prefer, I suppose. Maria just wants to listen to me. She doesn't want the book on the screen. That sounds good. I like that. I'm perfectly fine with that. Othello, anybody else want to weigh in on that? Well, I know, like, obviously you guys are going to be listening to it no matter what. So, like, of course I'm going to be reading the book, but I just didn't know if you would prefer to have the book on the screen with me in the little frame, so that you could follow along. But if you wanted, again, because you don't have to, but if you'd prefer not having the words on the screen, then that's great. Because that's how I imagined it. I imagined the book stream going in such a way where I would just read it um, with just me on the screen. So that sounds good. But yeah, Maria, that's kind of exactly what the whole idea was behind this, is because a lot of the same people that really enjoy the ASMR stuff from me on the streams are people that would, or the same people that really wanted to hear me read. Um, those are the same people that really like hearing my voice and things like this. So for some of you, I may be telling you a bedtime story where you fall asleep to me reading to you. Um, and others of you may just be listening. The soft background light. I'm glad that you find that attractive. So, second, the second option is that I could turn one of the lights down. We could do this. This is soft background technically. While I'm reading, but because this is probably more relaxing. I don't know. Maybe it isn't. Maria likes it though. What does Othello want? Othello very much loves it too. Maria says, yes, sir, I want this version. Perfect. Okay, good. We'll do that then. We will do that then. It is. It is, Maria, for sure it is. So now we've got very soft lighting going on. I will add this. Well, no, actually, it'll show right up in my continue. So I'll add this to my currently reading so that we can just pick right back up to it whenever we start again, where we left off. I've got a bookmark feature on here. I'm increasing the letter size a little bit so that I don't have to scooch in too far. And like I promised you guys, I'm going to bring the microphone right up close so that this is like a true professional audiobook reading. I'll make sure that the pop filters on the microphone, like literally the full deal, guys. Because typically you only get half of the quality that my microphone can actually produce because I'm quite far away, and the full quality and body of my voice and the microphone doesn't even get to come through because I am so far away and I'm speaking at it obliquely. The microphone is over here and I'm speaking this way. So we'll also do that. I believe, yeah, the words are big enough. Whoops. And what else do we have here? Show bookmarks, show table of contents, and I can also make notes and do highlights. Okay. Everything a book lover girl wants. I love it, Maria. Thank you. I'm glad that you think so, and I hope that all of you other book lover girls also agree. And Amira, yeah, I know. That was my last stream before I did my month-long break. And there's a reason why I didn't upload it, because I upload every one of my streams. But that one, as you guys remember, is the issue is I'm gonna have to actually adjust the volume of the stream too, because unfortunately when I bring I'm gonna have to adjust my microphone volume, because when I bring the mic up close to my face, it's gonna be so loud comparatively. Anyway, the reason being, if you guys remember that stream, which I mean, it's hard to, it's been a month, but a lot of you guys were saying the audio quality sounds like there's two of me and there's an echo, and I've since fixed that. So that bugged me so much that happened. I was like, this can never happen again. I figured out why it was happening, how it was happening, and I fixed it. But that stream's audio was so bad. Like, you guys were not wrong. It was so bad in terms of the audio. Like, the whole time, it just sounds like there's two of me, but the second version of me is, like, slightly off. It's not in sync. So it just sounds like there's this weird robotic echo going on the whole time. Otherwise, I would have uploaded it without a second thought, because I always do. But, man, that one was just unsalvageable. So I fixed it. And it won't happen again, but yeah, it was just terrible. I couldn't even bring myself to upload it. So we'll definitely talk more about plant-based milk and plant-based eating and all those sort of things again, though, definitely. And all of that information is not a one-off. You'll get it again, as long as people ask the questions again, which they will. It's not just you. Also, Luna really enjoyed that conversation, and quite a few of you did. So it'll come back. I'm excited too, Othella. I've been pretty excited for it. I wish I could play some music in the background, which I could as I'm talking, but I haven't thought that through. I'll have to do it maybe for next time or something that's royalty-free music, you know what I mean? Purely instrumental, and I could have it really low in the background as I read. Maria, thank you for the subscription. Thank you for the Prime sub. You and Othella have both Prime subbed in the past. Othella was yesterday. You were today. So much love to you, Maria. And thank you again to Othella as well. But Maria, thank you so much. Much love to you. All right. Let's see what I can do with the microphone here and get that volume sorted out as well. I'm going to be very careful here so I don't tip it over. Yeah, exactly, Othella. That's what I'm saying. Lo-fi music would work. It would be quite literally exactly what we need. Now that's not going to work because that's right in the way of the light. So if I can pull it forward but keep it out of the way of the light, that would be what I need to do. It's not quite out of the way of the light. Down, down, down. Forward, forward. angle up. Yeah, okay. All right. So that is going to be good. It's kind of in the way a little bit. Down a little bit more. We'll go with that, right? That could work. That's right up against. Yeah. Okay. We can do that. Oh, please don't. Okay, there we go. My sweatshirt. I would love to show you guys my sweatshirt. I would love to show you. Let me turn down the microphone a little. Wait, no. I think it's actually fine. Hopefully the microphone isn't too loud, right, guys? I don't. No, it's not. I can see it's not clipping or anything like that. So we should be good. I could talk really up close like this. I just don't want to be behind the light. And I also don't want the stupid camera not focusing on me either, because it's really wanting to do that. Okay. Maybe I could add some light from over there. Again, this is brand new, guys. We're setting this up here, so I apologize for the boringness right now. We're getting it set up. Welcome back, Rivers. Good to see you again. So my sweatshirt, the brand is Drop Dead. It's one of my favorite brands of all time, and the back is like a bunch of ravens. And it says Drop Dead on it. It's a bunch of like ravens and eyeballs and stuff and brains. A lot of brains. And then the hood, check out the hood. The hood's got a brain on it too. So it's like ravens and brains. It's really cool. I don't know if that will add enough. I think it will. That's enough to have it not come off of focus. Thank you, Amira. I mean, it's thanks to you that I even did that, because I wouldn't have showed it off if it weren't for you asking. So, great question. Great question indeed. All right. Are we ready? I think that the I think that the microphone is just fine the way that it is. Now it's going to be a little bit louder, of course, because I'm right up against it, but I've got the pop filter, so that's taking down a lot of the pops, consonants. All right. Whoops, that was loud. Is everybody ready to go? Is everybody ready for the segment, or what? The reading segment of the stream. Who's ready for story time? And I'm going to change the stream, not category technically, but the stream title to properly. Actually, I can. I can actually change the stream category. to books. I don't know if I want to, though. Hey, Dana, welcome back. Amira's ready. Let's go. Maria's ready. Let's go. Rivers is ready. Let's go. I'm going to take a quick bathroom break. I'm going to take a quick trip to the bathroom while we are... once I get the stream category ready. Stream updated title will be Storytime Dracula. Okay. Just a moment, guys. I am going to go to the bathroom super quick, and then we will initiate the long-awaited story time. Exciting. Exciting. Ivy, are you ready for story time? I know you are. I know you are. I'm getting more of my water. Got that. And I'm going to run a quick commercial break while we wait for me to hit the bathroom super quick. All right. Okay. Boom. I'm basically a giant. That's a good question, Dana. And that was a proper English sentence. So you did well. You did well there. Patty, welcome back. Great to see you. How are you? How's it going? Are we ready to embark on Storytime Dracula? Chapter 1. because I am. I certainly am. It's okay, Patty. Life happens. Things get busy. You know, I get it. Um, I'm doing great though. I had to take about a month-long break from the stream as well, so nothing wrong with that. It happens to even me. Yes, that is a coincidence, Maria, because it is raining hard here too. Hey, I'm proud of you, Dana. Sleeping 8 hours? That's beautiful. I love to hear it. All right, guys, are we ready for chapter 1? Remove the gum here. And let's go. Kind of actually have a little bit stuck on my... Yeah, a little bit stuck on my molar. Boom. Okay. Patty, the Jackson Downer family has missed you a lot. A lot. Well, that's too bad that your sleep schedule was messed up, Dana. Okay. All right. Now, I do not know how to pronounce Bistritz. So, hopefully... there's not too much that is really hard to pronounce. I'll go Bistritz. Bistritz. Rivers, Miss Patty. Look at that. You know, actually, Patty, I was just talking about you last night. Because I was mentioning about how Amira, you and Amira is here in the stream as well, Patty, but you and Amira are some of the longest standing stream veterans in my entire community, spanning over 5 years. For Patty, it's like 10 years. For Amira, it's like 5 or 6 years. So, you know, I appreciate you guys very much. And a lot of the newer people are coming up on their first year with me. So, first full year. Okay, guys. Chapter 1 of Dracula. Jonathan Harker's journal. Everything I read from here on out is going to be from the book. So it begins by saying, in parentheses, kept in shorthand. Yeah, it's been a long time, Amira. And yes, 10 years, Patty. Absolutely. I told you guys, I've been streaming for a very long time. You guys that have just found me within the past year, it's, you know, it's new for you, but I've been doing it a long time, baby. And I appreciate you very much, Patty. You never have let me down. Okay, chapter 1. Jonathan Harker's journal. Kept in shorthand. May the 3rd. Bistritz. This is from Jonathan Harker's journal. Left Munich at 8:35 p.m. on the 1st of May. Arriving at Vienna early next morning. Should have arrived at 6:46, but train was an hour late. Now again, he's writing in shorthand in his journal, guys. So keep in mind, it's not going to sound quite grammatically correct because he is writing in shorthand for his journal. Should have arrived at 6:46, but train was an hour late. Budapest seems like a wonderful place. From the glimpse which I got of it from the train and the little I could walk through the streets. I feared to go very far from the station, as we had arrived late, and would start as near the correct time as possible. The impression I had was that we were leaving the west and entering the east, the most western of splendid bridges over the Danube, which is here of noble width and depth, took us amongst the traditions of Turkish rule. We left in pretty good time and came after nightfall to Klausenberg. Here I stopped for the night at the Hotel Royal. I had for dinner, or rather supper, a chicken done up some way with red pepper, which was very good but thirsty. For my memory, get recipe for Mina. In parentheses. I asked the waiter, and he said it was called paprika Hendel, and that, as it was a national dish, I should be able to get it anywhere along the Carpathians. I found my smattering of German very useful here. Indeed, I don't know how I should be able to get on without it. Having had some time at my disposal when in London, I had visited the British Museum and made search among the books and maps in the library regarding Transylvania. It had struck me that some foreknowledge of the country could hardly fail to have some importance in dealing with a nobleman of that country. I find that the district he named is in the extreme east of the country, just on the borders of the three states, Transylvania, Moldavia, and Bukovina, in the midst of the Carpathian Mountains, one of the wildest and least known portions of Europe. I was not able to light on any map or work giving the exact locality of the castle Dracula, as there are no maps of this country as yet to compare with our own Ordnance Survey maps. But I found the Bistritz. The post town named by Count Dracula is a fairly well-known place. I shall enter here some of my notes, as they may refresh my memory when I talk over my travels with Mina. In the population of Transylvania, there are 4 distinct nationalities: Saxons in the south, and mixed with them in the Wallachs, who are descendants of the Dacians, Magyars in the west, and Zekelis in the east and north. I am going among the latter, who claim to be descended from Attila and the Huns. This may be so, for when the Magyars conquered the country in the 11th century, they found the Huns settled in it. I read that every town-known superstition in the world is gathered into the horseshoe of the Carpathians, as if it were the center of some sort of imaginative whirlpool. If so, my stay may be very interesting. For my memory, I must ask the Count all about them. I did not sleep well, though my bed was comfortable enough, for I had all sorts of queer dreams. There was a dog howling all night under my window, which may have had something to do with it, or it may have been the paprika, for I had to drink up all the water in my carafe and was still thirsty. Towards morning, I slept and was wakened by the continuous knocking at my door, so I guess I must have been sleeping soundly then. I had for breakfast more paprika and a sort of porridge of maize flour, which they said was mamaliga, an eggplant stuffed with forcemeat, a very excellent dish which they called implatata. For my memory, get a recipe for this also. I had to hurry to breakfast. I had to hurry breakfast, for the train started a little before 8, or rather it ought to have done so, for after rushing to the station at 7:30, I had to sit in the carriage for more than an hour before we began to move. It seems to me that the further east you go, the more unpunctual are the trains. What ought they to be in China? All day long we seemed to dawdle through a country which was full of beauty of every kind. Sometimes we saw little towns or castles on the top of steep hills, such as we see in old missals. Sometimes we ran by rivers and streams which seemed, from wide stony margin on each side of them, to be subject to great floods. It takes a lot of water, and running strong, to sweep the outside edge of a river clear. At every station there were groups of people, sometimes crowds, and in all sorts of attire. Some of them were just like the peasants at home, or those I saw coming through France and Germany, with those short jackets and round hats and homemade trousers. But others were very picturesque. The women looked pretty, except when you got near them, but they were very clumsy about the waist. They had all full white sleeves of some kind or other, and most of them had big belts with a lot of strips of something fluttering from them like the dresses in a ballet. But of course there were petticoats under them. The strangest figures we saw were the Slovaks, who were more barbarian than the rest, with their big cowboy hats, great baggy dirty white trousers, white linen shirts, and enormous heavy leather belts nearly a foot wide, all studded over with brass nails. They wore high boots with their trousers tucked into them, and had long black hair and heavy black mustaches. They are very picturesque, but do not look prepossessing. On the stage they would be set down at once as some old oriental band of brigands. They are, however, I am told, very harmless and rather wanting in natural self-assertion. It was on the dark side of twilight when we got to Bistritz, which is a very interesting old place. Being practically on the frontier, for the Borgo Pass leads from it to Bukovina, it has had a very stormy existence, and it certainly shows marks of it. 50 years ago, a series of great fires took place, which made terrible havoc on 5 separate occasions. At the very beginning of the 17th century, it underwent a siege of 3 weeks and lost 13,000 people, and casualties of war proper being assisted by famine and disease. Count Dracula had directed me to go to the Golden Crone Hotel, which I found to my great delight to be thoroughly old-fashioned. For of course I wanted to see all I could of the ways of the country. I was evidently expected, for when I got near the door I faced a cheery-looking elderly woman in the usual peasant dress, white undergarment with a long double apron, front and back, of colored stuff fitting almost too tight for modesty. When I came close, she bowed and said, "The Herr Englishman?" "Yes," I said, "Jonathan Harker." She smiled and gave me some message to an elderly man in the white shirt sleeves who had followed her to the door. He went, but immediately returned with a letter. And it reads, "My friend, welcome to the Carpathians. I am anxiously expecting you. Sleep well tonight. At 3 tomorrow, the diligence will start for Bukovina. A place on it is kept for you. At the Borgo Pass, my carriage will await you and will bring you to me. I trust that your journey from London has been a happy one, and that you will enjoy your stay in my beautiful land. Your friend, Dracula. The 4th of May. I found that my landlord had got a letter from the Count, directing him to secure the best place on the coach for me. But on making inquiries as to the details, he seemed somewhat reticent and pretended that he could not understand my German. This could not be true, because up to then he had understood it perfectly. At least he answered my questions exactly as if he did. He and his wife, the old lady who had received me, looked at each other in a frightened sort of way. He mumbled out that the money had been sent in a letter, and that was all he knew. When I asked him if he knew Count Dracula and could tell me anything of his castle, both he and his wife crossed themselves, and, saying that they knew nothing at all, simply refused to speak further. It was so near the time of starting that I had no time to ask anyone else, for it was all very mysterious and not by any means comforting. Just before I was leaving, the old lady came up to my room and said in a very hysterical way, "Must you go? Oh, young heir, must you go?" She was in such an excited state that she seemed to have lost her grip of what German she knew, and mixed it all up with some other language, which I did not know at all. I was just able to follow her by asking many questions. When I told her that I must go at once, and I was engaged on important business, she asked again, "Do you know what day it is?" I answered that it was the 4th of May. She shook her head and said again, "Oh yes, I know that, but do you know what day it is?" On my saying that I did not understand, she went on, "It is the eve of St. George's Day. Do you not know that tonight, when the clock strikes midnight, all the evil things in the world will have full sway? Do you know where you're going and what you're going to?" She was in such evident distress that I tried to comfort her, but without effect. Finally, she went down on her knees and implored me not to go, at least to wait a day or two before starting. It was all very ridiculous, but I did not feel comfortable. However, there was business to be done, and I could allow nothing to interfere with it. I therefore tried to raise her up and said, as gravely as I could, that I thanked her, but my duty was imperative, and that I must go. She then rose and dried her eyes, and taking a crucifix from her neck, offered it to me. I did not know what to do. As an English churchman, I had been taught to regard such things as, in some measure, idolatrous, and yet it seemed so ungracious to refuse an old lady meaning so well and in such a state of mind. She saw, I suppose, the doubt in my face, for she put the rosary around my neck and said, "For your mother's sake," and went out of the room. I am writing up this part of the diary whilst I am waiting for the coach, which is, of course, late, and the crucifix is still round my neck. Whether it is the old lady's fear, or the many ghostly traditions of this place, or the crucifix itself, I do not know. But I am not feeling nearly as easy in my mind as usual. If this book should ever reach Mina before I do, let it bring my goodbye. Here comes the coach. The 5th of May. The castle. The gray of morning is past, and the sun is high over the distant horizon, which seems jagged. Whether with trees or hills, I know not, for it is so far off that big things and little are mixed. I'm not sleepy, and as I am not to be called till I awake, naturally I write till sleep comes. There are many odd things to put down, and lest who reads them may fancy that I dined too well before I left Bistreet's, let me put down my dinner exactly. I dined on what they call robber steak, bits of bacon, onion, and beef seasoned with red pepper and strung on sticks and roasted over the fire in simple style of the London cat's meat. The wine was golden Madaish, which produces a queer sting on the tongue, which is, however, not disagreeable. I had only a couple glasses of this and nothing else. When I got on the coach, the driver had not taken his seat, and I saw him talking with the landlady. They were evidently talking of me, for every now and then they looked at me, and some of the people who were sitting on the bench outside of the door, which they call by a name meaning word bearer, came and listened, and then looked at me, most of them pityingly. I could hear a lot of words often repeated, queer words, for there were many nationalities in the crowd. So I quietly got my polyglot dictionary from my bag and looked them out. I must say they were not cheering to me, for amongst them were Ordog, Satan, Pokal, Hell, Stragoica, Witch, Vrolok, and Koslak, both of which mean the same thing, one being Slovak and the other Servian for something that is either werewolf or vampire. From my memory, I must ask the Count about these superstitions. When we started, the crowd round the inn door, which had by this time swelled to a considerable size, all made the sign of the cross and pointed 2 fingers at me. With some difficulty, I got a fellow passenger to tell me what they meant. He would not answer at first, but on learning that I was English, he explained that it was a charm or guard against the evil eye. This was not very pleasant for me, just starting for an unknown place to meet an unknown man. But everyone seemed so kind-hearted, and so sorrowful, and so sympathetic, that I could not but be touched. I shall never forget the last glimpse which I had of the inn yard and its crowd of picturesque figures, all crossing themselves as they stood round the wide archway, with its background of rich foliage of oleander and orange trees in green tubs clustered around the center of the yard. Then our driver, whose wide linen drawers covered the whole front of the box seat, Gotza, they call him, cracked his big whip over his 4 small horses which ran abreast, and we set off on our journey. I soon lost sight and recollection of ghostly fears in the beauty of the scene as we drove along. Although, had I known the language, or rather languages, which my fellow passengers were speaking, I might not have been able to throw them off so easily. Before us lay a green, sloping land full of forests and woods, with here and there steep hills, crowned with clumps of trees, or with farmhouses, the blank gable end to the road. There was everywhere a bewildering mass of fruit blossom, apple, plum, pear, cherry, and as we drove by, I could see the green grass under the trees spangled with the fallen petals. In and out amongst these green hills of what they call here the middle land ran the road, losing itself as it swept round the grassy curve, or was shut out by the straggling ends of pine woods, which here and there ran down the hillsides like tongues of flame. The road was rugged, but still we seemed to fly over it with a feverish haste. I could not understand then what the haste meant, but the driver was evidently bent on losing no time in reaching Borgo-Prond. I was told that this road is in summertime excellent, but that it had not been put in order after the winter snows. In this respect, it is different from the general run of roads in the Carpathians. For it is an old tradition that they are not to be kept in too good order. Of old, the hospodars would not repair them, lest the Turks should think that they were preparing to bring in foreign troops, and so hasten the war, which was always really at loading point. Beyond the green swelling hills of the Middle Land rose the mighty slopes of forest up to the lofty steeps of the Carpathians themselves. Right and left of us they towered, with the afternoon sun falling upon them and bringing out all of the glorious colors of this beautiful range. Deep blue and purple in the shadows of the peaks, green and brown where grass and rock mingled, and an endless perspective of jagged rock and pointed crags, till these were themselves lost in the distance, where the snowy peaks rose grandly. Here and there seemed mighty rifts in the mountains, though which, as the sun began to sink, we saw now and again the white gleam of falling water. One of my companions touched my arm as we swept around the base of a hill and opened up the lofty snow-covered peak of a mountain, which seemed, as we wound up our serpentine way, to be right before us. "Look! It's in Sec, God's seat!" And he crossed himself reverently. As we wound on our endless way, and the sun sank lower and lower behind us, the shadows of the evening began to creep round us. This was emphasized by the fact that the snowy mountains' tops still held the sunlight and seemed to glow out with a delicate, cool pink. Here and there, we passed Czechs and Slovaks, all in picturesque attire. But I noticed that goiter was painfully prevalent. By the roadside, there were many crosses, and as we swept by, my companions all crossed themselves. Here and there was a peasant man or woman kneeling before a shrine who did not even turn around as we approached, but seemed in the self-surrender of devotion to have neither eyes nor ears to the outer world. There were many things new to me. For instance, hayricks in the trees, and here and there, very beautiful masses of weeping birch, their white stems shining like silver through the delicate green of the leaves. Now and then, we passed a lighter wagon, the ordinary peasant's cart, with its long, snake-like vertebra, calculated to suit the inequalities of the road. On this were sure to be seated quite a group of homecoming peasants, the Czechs with their white and the Slovaks with their colored sheepskins, the latter carrying lance fashion their long staves, with axe at end. As the evening fell, it began to get very cold, and the growing twilight seemed to merge into one dark mistiness, the gloom of the trees, oak, beech, and pine, though in the valleys which ran steep between the spurs of the hills, as we ascended through the pass, the dark firs stood out here and there against the background of the late-lying snow. Sometimes, as the road was cut through the pine woods that seemed in the darkness to be closing down upon us, great masses of grayness, which here and there bestrewed the trees, produced a peculiarly weird and solemn effect, which carried on the thoughts and grim fancies engendered earlier in the evening, when the falling sunset threw into strange relief the ghost-like clouds which amongst the Carpathians seemed to wind ceaselessly through the valleys. Sometimes the hills were so steep that, despite our driver's haste, the horses could only go slowly. I wished to get down and walk up them, as we do at home, but the driver would not hear of it. "No, no," he said, "you must not walk here. The dogs are too fierce." And then, he added, with what he evidently meant for grim pleasantry, for he looked round to catch the approving smile of the rest, "and you may have had enough of such matters before you go to sleep." The only stop he would make was a moment's pause to light his lamps. When it grew dark, there seemed to be some excitement amongst the passengers, and they kept speaking to him, one after the other, as though urging him to further speed. He lashed the horses unmercifully with his long whip, and with wild cries of encouragement, urged them on to further exertions. Then, through the darkness, I could see a sort of patch of gray light ahead of us, as though there were a cleft in the hills. The excitement of the passengers grew greater. The crazy coach rocked on its great leather springs and swayed like a boat tossed on a stormy sea. I had to hold on. The road grew more level, and we appeared to fly along. Then the mountain seemed to come nearer to us on each side and to frown down upon us. We were entering on the Borgo Pass. One by one, several of the passengers offered me gifts, which they pressed upon me with an earnestness which would take no denial. These were certainly of an odd and varied kind, but each was given in simple good faith, with a kindly word and a blessing, and that same strange mixture of fear-meaning movements which I had seen outside the hotel at Bistreet's, the sign of the cross and the guard against the evil eye. Then, as we flew along, the driver leaned forward, and on each side the passengers, craning over the edge of the coach, peered eagerly into the darkness. It was evident that something very exciting was either happening or expected, but though I asked each passenger, no one would give me the slightest explanation. This state of excitement kept on for some little time, and at last we saw before us the pass, opening out on the eastern side. There were dark rolling clouds overhead, and in the air the heavy, oppressive sense of thunder. It seemed as though the mountain range had separated two atmospheres, and that now we had gone into the thunderous one. I was now myself looking out for the conveyance which was to take me to the Count. Each moment I expected to see the glare of the lamps through the blackness, but all was dark. The only light was the flickering rays of our own lamps, in which the steam from our hard-driven horses rose in a white cloud. We could see now the sandy road lying white before us, but there was on it no sign of a vehicle. The passengers drew back with a sigh of gladness, which seemed to mock my own disappointment. I was already thinking what I had best do, when the driver, looking at his watch, said to the others something which I could hardly hear. It was spoken so quietly and in so low a tone that I thought it was an hour less than the time. Then, turning to me, he said in German, worse than my own, "There is no carriage here. The heir is not expected after all. He will now come on to Bukovina and return tomorrow or the next day. Better the next day." Whilst he was speaking, the horses began to neigh and snort and plunge wildly, so that the driver had to hold them up. Then, amongst a chorus of screams from the peasants and a universal crossing of themselves, a calèche with 4 horses drove up behind us, overtook us, and drew up beside the coach. I could see from the flash of our lamps as the rays fell on them that the horses were coal black and splendid animals. They were driven by a tall man with a long brown beard and a great black hat, which seemed to hide his face from us. I could only see the gleam of a pair of very bright eyes which seemed red in the lamplight as he turned to us. He said to the driver, "You are early tonight, my friend." the man stammered in reply. The English heir was in a hurry. To which the stranger replied, That is why, I suppose, you wished him to go on to Bukovina. You cannot deceive me, my friend. I know too much, and my horses are swift. As he spoke, he smiled, and in the lamplight fell on a hard-looking mouth, with very red lips and sharp-looking teeth, as white as ivory. One of my companions whispered to another the line from Burger's Lenore. Den die Toten reiten schnell, for the dead travel fast. The strange driver evidently heard the words, for he looked up with a gleaming smile. The passenger turned his face away, at the same time putting out his 2 fingers and crossing himself. Give me the heir's luggage, said the driver, and with exceeding alacrity my bags were handed out and put in the calèche. Then I descended from the side of the coach. As the calèche was close alongside, the driver helping me with a hand which caught my arm in a grip of steel. His strength must have been prodigious. Without a word, he shook his reins and the horses turned, and we swept into the darkness of the pass. As I looked back, I saw the steam from the horses of the coach by the light of the lamps, and projected against it the figures of my late companions crossing themselves. Then the driver cracked his whip and called to his horses, and off they swept on their way to Bukovina. As they sank into the darkness, I felt a strange chill, and a lonely feeling came over me. But a cloak was thrown over my shoulders and a rug across my knees, and the driver said in excellent German, The night is chill, mein Herr, and my master the Count bade me take all care of you. There is a flask of Slivolvitz, the plum brandy of the country, underneath the seat if you should require it. I didn't take any, but it was a comfort to know that it was all there all the same. I felt a little strangely, and not a little frightened. I think, had there been any alternative, I should have taken it, instead of prosecuting that unknown night journey. The carriage went at a hard pace straight along, and then we made a complete turn and went along another straight road. It seems to me that we were simply going over and over the same ground again, and so I took note of some salient point, and found that this was so. I would have liked to have asked the driver what this all meant, but I really feared to do so, for I thought that, placed as I was, any protest would have had no effect in case there had been an intention to delay. By and by, however, as I was curious to know how time was passing, I struck a match, and by its flame looked at my watch. It was within a few minutes of midnight. This gave me a sort of shock, for I suppose the general superstition about midnight was increased by my recent experiences. I waited with a sick feeling of suspense. Then a dog began to howl somewhere in a farmhouse down the road. A long, agonized wailing, as if from fear. The sound was taken up by another dog, and then another, and another, till, borne on the wind, which now sighed softly through the pass, a wild howling began, which seemed to come from all over the country, as far as the imagination could grasp it through the gloom of the night. At the first howl, the horses began to strain and rear, but the driver spoke to them soothingly, and they quieted down, but shivered and sweated as though after a runaway from a sudden fright. Then, far off in the distance, from the mountains on each side of us began a louder and a sharper howling, that of wolves, which affected both the horses and myself in the same way. For I was minded to jump from the collation run, whilst they reared again and plunged madly, so that the driver had to use all his great strength to keep them from bolting. In a few minutes, however, my own ears got accustomed to the sound, and the horses so far became quiet that the driver was able to descend and stand before them. He petted and soothed them and whispered something in their ears, as I have heard of those horse tamers doing, and with extraordinary effect, for under his caresses they became quite manageable again, though they still trembled. The driver again took a seat and, shaking his reins, started off at a great pace. This time, after going to the far side of the pass, he suddenly turned down a narrow roadway, which ran sharply to the right. Soon we were hemmed in with the trees, which in places arched right over the roadway till we passed as through a tunnel. And again, great frowning rocks guarded us boldly on either side. Though we were in shelter, we could hear the rising wind, for it moaned and whistled through the rocks, and the branches of the trees crashed together as we swept along. It grew colder and colder still, and fine, powdery snow began to fall, so that soon we all around us were covered with a white blanket. The keen winds still carried the howling of the dogs, though this grew fainter as we went on our way. The baying of the wolves sounded nearer and nearer, as though they were closing round on us from every side. I grew dreadfully afraid, and the horses shared my fear. The driver, however, was not in the least disturbed. He kept turning his head left to right, but I couldn't see anything through the darkness. Suddenly, away on our left, I saw a faint flickering blue flame. The driver saw it at the same moment. He at once checked the horses and, jumping to the ground, disappeared into the darkness. I didn't know what to do, the less as the howling of the wolves grew closer. But while I wondered, the driver suddenly appeared again, and without a word took a seat, and we resumed our journey. I think I must have fallen asleep and kept dreaming of the incident, for it seemed to be repeated endlessly, and now, looking back, it is like a sort of awful nightmare. Once the flame appeared so near the road that even in the darkness around us, I could watch the driver's motions. He went rapidly to where the blue flame arose. It must have been very faint, for it did not seem to illumine the place around it at all, and gathering a few stones, formed them into some device. Once there appeared a strange optical effect. When he stood between me and the flame, he did not obstruct it, for I could see its ghostly flicker all the same. This startled me, but as the effect was only momentary, I took it that my eyes deceived me straining through the darkness. Then for a time there were no blue flames, and we sped onwards through the gloom, with the howling of the wolves around us, as though they were following in a moving circle. At last there came a time when the driver went further afield than he had yet gone, and during his absence the horses began to tremble worse than ever, and to snort and scream with fright. I could not see any cause for it, for the howling of the wolves had ceased altogether, but just then the moon, sailing through the black clouds, appeared through the jagged crest of a beetling, pine-clad rock, and by its light I saw around us a ring of wolves with white teeth, lolling red tongues, with long, sinewy limbs and shaggy hair. They were 100 times more terrible in the grim silence which held them than even when they howled. For myself, I felt a sort of paralysis and fear. It is only when a man feels himself face to face with such horrors that he can understand their true import. All at once the wolves began to howl as though the moonlight had had some peculiar effect on them. The horses jumped about and reared, and looked helplessly around with eyes that rolled in a way painful to see. But the living ring of terror encompassed them on every side, and they had perforce to remain within it. I called to the coachman to come, for it seemed to me that it was our only chance to try and break out through the ring and to aid his approach. I shouted and beat the side of the calash, hoping by the noise to scare the wolf from that side, so as to give him a chance of reaching the trap. How he came there, I know not, but I heard his voice in a raised tone of imperious command, and looking towards the sound, I saw him stand in the roadway. As he swept his long arms, as though brushing aside some impalpable obstacle, the wolves fell back, and back further still. Just then, a heavy cloud passed across the face of the moon, so that we were again in darkness. When I could see again, the driver was climbing into the calash, and the wolves had disappeared. This was all so strange and uncanny that a dreadful fear came upon me, and I was afraid to speak or move. The time seemed interminable as we swept on our way, now in almost complete darkness, for the rolling clouds obscured the moon. We kept on ascending, with occasional periods of quick descent, but in the main, always ascending. Suddenly, I became conscious of the fact that the driver was in the act of pulling up the horses in the courtyard of a vast ruined castle, from whose tall black windows came no ray of light, and whose broken battlements shone a jagged line against the moonlit sky. End of chapter 1. So we'll stop there. I mean, the chapters are long enough. They're long enough chapters that will keep us busy for quite some time, because that was quite a decent stretch. I think I want to say it was quite a decent stretch of reading. So we'll do that. We will stop. I mean, obviously we'll go by feel, right? So sometimes there will be maybe chapter 2 is way shorter, the chapter lengths in a book are not fixed 100% always the exact same. So at least chapter 1 was quite long, so we will call it there for chapter 1 at least. And for day 1 of Dracula, so that was good. For those of you still awake after all that time. I hope you enjoyed that. Because it's getting late now. We had a lot of setup, so I probably put a lot of you to sleep with the reading, to be fair. But let me get back to some of your messages real quick. That sounds good, Patty. I'm gonna be ending the stream fairly soon here because it's late here for me. So I hope you have a great time dropping your daughter off at school. I will. I mean, when you come, hopefully you come back tomorrow at least, because I'll be here tomorrow. But I won't be here for that much longer tonight. Tonight. And thank you, Maria. I'm glad that you found it beautiful. I'm glad that you fell in love with my voice even more, and I'm glad that you're still awake. I'm going to place the bookmark here for us, guys. Chapter 2 is bookmarked. So we've got a bookmark right on the page that we have stopped at. Let me hit the light. Oh. And actually, I want to shut that other one off. Boom. Okay. Well, I'm glad that you stuck around here with me, Maria. Very glad you stayed awake with me. Yeah. No, that was fun. That was really good. And I was excited. I've been excited to do something like this for you guys and with you guys for a while. Something like this. But yeah, I don't know. Last night and today just kind of clicked to me that this is such a perfect way to do it. Such a perfect way to do it. And of course, for all of those of you who missed the stream, but or aren't able to be there for, let's say, chapter 5, all of my streams get uploaded on YouTube and things like this. So you never really have to worry about, missing anything. So, yeah. Because you can always go back and listen to it. But, yeah. Yeah, I wish I could keep going, Maria. It's just so late. And I wish I could keep going. I wish I didn't have to leave you and leave you terrified like this. Because, yeah, like, storms can be scary. Storms can be terrifying. And I get that. I'm glad I give you peace of mind. Well, there's probably hundreds of hours of my videos on my many social medias and YouTubes and things like this. If you really need me, it's all there. But as for live, anyway, I wish I could keep going. I do, but I need to get going so I can get some sleep. Unfortunately, I really need it. I didn't get enough sleep today either. I wish there was more time in a day. It's so busy all the time. But all right. Let's wrap this baby up, okay? We'll wrap this baby up. I will be back tomorrow. Maria, again, thank you so much for subscribing tonight. Really appreciate you. Really, really, really appreciate you. And I will hopefully see you tomorrow. And hopefully I will see everyone tomorrow. But we will be back. And yeah. So, yes, Maria, yes, exactly. I actually put it in the Discord today. The Discord announcements channel in the Discord. I had written that the Jackson Downer TV YouTube channel, it's called Jackson Downer TV. If you go on there, all of my previous streams are on there. And tomorrow, this stream will be on there. And you'll be hearing me talking to you. And, you know, in many previous streams that you could even listen to on, or watch and listen to on the Jackson Downer TV YouTube channel, you would hear me speaking to you in those too, because you've been in plenty of streams. And like I say, all of them are on there. But yes, I, you know, always appreciate when you throw me on in the background or help you relax, listen to a video or watch a video in order to help you relax, because that's what that's part of the reason why I put them out there for, you know. It's all for you, you know. And I'm very glad that you love my voice and that you find it so relaxing, and that you adore me. I really appreciate it. I really do. I'm glad you think so. And I'm glad that you will be there tomorrow with me. I appreciate you so very much. And yes, I miss every single one of you guys whenever you are gone from the streams. I know it's just because you guys are, you know, you get busy with work or busy with school or busy with, you know, if you have kids, you get busy with your kids. There's so many different reasons as to why you could possibly be busy. And for you, it's been studying and work, and that's understandable 100%. But of course, I miss you whenever you're gone. And I am very glad to have you back, of course. And I'm glad to be back too, because again, I've also been gone. I've been absent from the streams for a month. I've been really busy too, so it's good to be back for me as well. Anyways, I love you guys so much, and I will talk to you and see you tomorrow. So much love to you all. Good night.